I did everything in my power to be a good student. I dreamed of one day going to one of the best universities in America. But despite my efforts, there were still people in my life who told me that I was setting my sights too high, that a girl like me couldn't get into an elite university. It was like these folks were trying to put me in a little box, a box that fit their constrained expectations of me. And I think about where I would be in my life if I didn't work hard in school and have the opportunity to go to college and then on to law school. I wouldn't be here. So I think it's imperative, and it is part of my passion and my mission to make sure that every girl on the planet has the same opportunity that I've had, that my daughters have, and I want to make sure that all of you here in the United States are taking advantage of the opportunities that you have as well. I want you to be that hungry to get your education, because it is going to be the key to your future.
Definitely the most modern First Lady we've ever had.
Change. That's what Michelle Obama stood for. She was caring and fought for equality alongside her husband. She was America's First Lady.
Our guest is a proud graduate of the Chicago public school system and has degrees from Princeton and Harvard Law School. Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama. Thanks so much. Welcome.
Education is a very personal thing for me. As I tell girls whenever I meet them, I wouldn't be here, sitting here, not just in this chair, but in the life that I have, if it weren't for my education. I know that when you hear the phrase, knowledge is power, it's true.
Raised on the south side of Chicago, Illinois, to parents Fraser Robinson and Marion Shields, Michelle Obama had an upbringing many Americans can relate to, a childhood those in power had never experienced.
I know the struggles many of you face. How you walk the long way home to avoid the gangs. How you fight to concentrate on your homework when there's too much noise at home. How you keep it together when your families are having hard times making ends meet. But more importantly, I also know the strengths of this community. I know the families on the South Side, and while they may come in all different shapes and sizes, most families here are tight, bound together by the kind of love that gets stronger when it's tested. I know that folks on the South Side work hard, the kind of hard where you forget about yourself and you just worry about your kids, doing everything it takes, juggling 2 and 3 jobs, taking long bus rides to the night shift, scraping pennies together to sign those kids up for every activity you can afford, Park District programs, praise dance ministries, whatever it takes to keep them safe and on the right track.
One of Michelle's greatest, I think, qualities is that she comes across as powerful but relatable. People who have met her, who have spent time with her, say that she is aspirational but at the same time very relatable. She puts people immediately at ease. She shows a genuine, thoughtful interest in people when she meets them. She's also very down to earth and very much feels like someone you can talk to.
Whilst working at Sidley Austin Law Firm in Chicago, she met a young Barack Obama. They had a lot in common. On October the 3rd, 1992, Michelle LaVaughn Robinson became Michelle Obama. The two married and soon started their family.
I can honestly say that when it comes to his character and his convictions and his heart, Barack Obama is still the same man I fell in love with all those years ago.
In this country, we rise or fall as one nation, as one people. Let's resist the temptation to fall back on the same partisanship and pettiness and immaturity that has poisoned our politics for so long. Let's remember that it was a man from this state who first carried the banner of the Republican Party to the White House, a party founded on the values of self-reliance and individual liberty and national unity. Those are values that we all share. And while the Democratic Party has won a great victory tonight, we do so with a measure of humility and determination to heal the divides that have held back our progress. Now, this doesn't mean we can afford to stand still. The nature of our leadership will need to change with the times. In this century, our joint leadership will require building new partnerships, adapting to new circumstances, and remaking ourselves to meet the demands of a new era.
Michelle was outspoken, professional, but also caring. She captivated the hearts of those around her, and she made sure everyone she interacted with felt special. She was driven to encourage girls worldwide to seek education, and for those incapable of receiving a decent education, she campaigned for change.
We want to make sure that every door is open to girls like you, and not just here in England, and not just in America, but in every corner of the globe. And that starts with making sure that every girl on this planet has the kinds of opportunities you all have to get the education and to succeed.
Michelle LaVaughn Robinson grew up in the Southside of Chicago. It was primarily a white area when she moved in, and then it became a mostly African-American area by the time she left. She grew up with a very working class family. Her dad was a shift worker. He put on his uniform every day. Her mother went back to work in order to support the family, help raise the kids. She grew up with her brother Craig. They lived in a very small apartment above a home that her aunt owned. And basically the living room was cut up into like 3 living spaces. And she had a very small single bedroom with just a partition between her and her brother. In fact, it didn't actually go to the ceiling. So she and her brother Craig would like throw a sock over back and forth at night. And they'd be like, "You up, Craig?" "Yeah, I'm awake." It was a very simple, humble beginning. But Michelle says that it was fundamental to her growth and development. Her parents gave her the foundation and the determination to succeed. Michelle says that her mom always said she was a little extra. She remembers vividly, even now, I think she was in kindergarten and she got the answer wrong on a colors test. And it bothered her so much that she went back to the teacher the next day and asked for a do-over, which she got, and she aced it. From the very beginning, Michelle Obama wanted to achieve. She wanted to get 100%. She wanted to be the best. And growing up in the South Side of Chicago, she was not going to let her color, her socioeconomic position, anything hinder her from getting to the top.
Growing up in the South Side of Chicago, Michelle didn't have the same opportunities as her peers. She sought after her own mentors to help aid her journey to enroll in college.
And this isn't just a devastating loss for these girls. It's a devastating loss for all of us who are missing out on their promise. One of these girls could have the potential to cure cancer or start a business that transforms an industry or become the next president or prime minister who inspires her country. But if she never sets foot in a classroom, chances are she will never discover or fulfill that potential.
From the very beginning, Michelle has been telling other women not to let someone's opinion of you determine who you are, not just women, but everyone. And the fact is, Michelle herself faced people doubting her from such a young age, even in high school, but she didn't let it stop her from achieving her dreams.
Michelle was a bright student. She attended Chicago's first magnet high school, Whitney Young High School. Despite being an underprivileged student, Michelle strived to be a high achiever. Both Michelle and her older brother, Craig Robinson, skipped the 2nd grade. Her father worked as a pump operator for the Chicago Water Department, whilst her mother was a stay-at-home mom. She was from a hard-working, hard-wearing background. Her father suffered from multiple sclerosis, a condition that can severely affect the brain and spinal cord. Fraser Robinson struggled to get to work as a result of his illness. He walked with 2 canes, but still continued to attend a physical job, so he could send his children to college in order for them to receive the education they deserved.
See, growing up, they had the expectation that they would succeed and that they would have the resources they needed to achieve their goals. So whether it was taking an SAT prep class, getting a math tutor, seeking advice from a teacher or a counselor, they took advantage of every opportunity they had. So I decided to follow their lead. I found an advisor who helped me choose my classes. I went to the Multicultural Student Center and met older students who became my mentor. And soon enough, I felt like I had this college thing all figured out.
Michelle's determination to learn earned her a place at Princeton University after graduating high school, where she majored in sociology and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree. Her educational career didn't end. She also earned a Juris Doctor degree from Harvard Law School.
Our planet is in peril, and the dream that so many generations fought for feels like it's slowly slipping away.
And graduates, wherever you are headed, I guarantee you that there will be all kinds of folks who are eager to help you. But they are not gonna come knocking on your door to find you. You have to take responsibility to find them.
Barack Hussein Obama,
I,
do solemnly swear
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear
that I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully,
that I will execute
the office of President of the United States,
President of the United States faithfully,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve,
protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President. All the best wishes.
Let's jump to meeting Barack Obama.
Meeting Barack Obama. I thought I was gonna be meeting a nerd, an intellectual nerd, right? And then I talked to him on the phone and he had that Barack Obama voice. He was like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, oh, hey. I really did. It was just like, oh.
Maybe we can work with this.
That voice didn't go with the picture of that little nerd I had in my head, you know? So I was like, okay.
They both had promising careers in law, and in 1998, their first daughter, Malia, was born, 3 years before their daughter, Sasha, was born. Barack was elected to the Illinois Senate in 1996 and then to the U.S. Senate in 2004. He spent the next 3 years in the Senate before starting his political campaign to run for president.
Thank you, Los Angeles! LA! Look at this! Y'all turning it out. You are turning it out. I am so grateful to you. Now, let's face it. 18 months ago, y'all didn't know who I was. You see there, even folks in Illinois didn't know who I was. People said, well, he's been a pretty good state senator. He's provided health insurance for kids. He's helped to reform the death penalty that was broken in Illinois. But they said, you know, the guy's got no money, he's got no organization, and nobody can pronounce his name. They called me all sorts of things. They called me Alabama. They called me Yo Mama. I had to explain, no, it's Obama.
You were very blessed to have a wonderful family,
Yes.
your parents. And you write so movingly about your father. I mean, one of the sentences in this book that I was struck by is that you grew up with the sound of striving.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle stood by his side and assisted in all that she could to help Barack achieve his goals. She looked after her family and kept them together despite the heavy workloads and late nights that would eventually engulf the family and threaten to break the dynamic.
Every time Barack came to me with the idea of running for an office, I was just like, please don't do this. Pick another career. You're gifted. You went to college. You got a law degree. Can't you do anything else besides this? Yeah. There's so many ways to save the world. But every time I had to think to myself, that approach is selfish.
But you know, I would sometimes get another question that people would ask me, not just about my name. They would ask me, you seem like a nice young man, family man, you got a fancy law degree, you teach at a fine law school. You could be doing so many things. Why would you want to go into politics?
I am not a fan of discrimination and bullying of anybody on the basis of race, on the basis of religion, on the basis of sexual orientation or gender. And I think that this is actually part and parcel of the agenda that's also going to be front and center, and that is how are we treating women and girls.
Barack was driven to change America for the better. He would often have sleepless nights where he would contemplate on the inequalities of the country, inequalities he knew he could change if given the opportunity. During Barack's time as president, Michelle stepped into the limelight to support her husband and the women and children of America. The power couple captivated Americans and people around the globe.
Right, I think one of the things that stands out in the relationship between Barack and Michelle Obama is just how close they are, how much they are equal partners, how they see themselves as a team. That their relationship isn't perfect, but they tend to be honest about whatever issues they have with one another. But it's very clear to see that they have such a strong love for one another. And in politics, a lot of these political wives and husbands are often plagued by different scandals. They're in the tabloids for different accusations of things happening. And you have to admit, for anyone either on the right or on the left, that this was really a scandal-free couple. There really wasn't a lot of noise about anything going on in their relationship, other than the fact that they clearly loved each other, cared for one another, and saw themselves as equals.
Let me tell you, when I was your age, I never dreamed that I'd be standing here as First Lady of the United States. And I know that my husband never thought he'd be president either. Neither of us grew up with much money. Neither of my parents went to university. Barack's father left his family when Barack was just 2 years old. He was raised by a single mom. And all along the way, there were plenty of people who doubted that kids like us had what it took to succeed. People who told us not to hope for too much or set our sights too high. But Barack and I refused to let other people define us. Instead, we held tight to those values we were raised with. Things like honesty, hard work, a commitment to our education. We did our best to be open to others, to give everyone we met a fair shake, no matter who they were or where they came from. And we soon realized that the more we lived by those values, the more we'd see them from other people in return. We saw that when we reached out and listened to somebody else's perspective, that person was more likely to listen to us.
The eyes of the American public turned toward their First Lady. Inclusivity was at the heart of Michelle Obama's tenure as First Lady.
Well, today, after so many struggles and triumphs and moments that have tested my husband in ways I never could have imagined, I have seen firsthand that being president doesn't change who you are. No, it reveals who you are.
Our problems can be solved. Our challenges can be met. The path we offer may be harder, but it leads to a better place, and I'm asking you to choose that future. You took this campaign and you made it your own, and you organized yourselves, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, county by county, starting a movement that spread across the country, a movement made up of young and old and rich and poor and black and white, Latino, Asian, Native American, gay, straight, Democrats, Republicans, who believe we've all got something to contribute. And we all deserve a shot at our own American dream.
My husband, the love of my life, the President of the United States, Barack Obama.
In 2012, Barack Obama had to gain the vote of young people for his re-election. Michelle knew that every vote mattered, but she also knew that not everyone voted.
Because that's where you can get some concrete information on what our president is going to do in the next 4 years, including creating jobs, reducing our deficit, and so much more. But here's what I really want you to tell them. I want you to tell them that Barack Obama knows the American dream because he's lived it.
During the earlier Obama campaigns, Michelle and Barack focused on making sure everyone understood that their vote counted. The 2012 campaign pushed Michelle to be more political. She was increasingly more active in Barack's campaign and eventually started her own.
The issues that Michelle focused on in her reign as First Lady, which were like healthy kids, education, these were not just for show.
As First Lady, Michelle Obama focused on 4 key initiatives: Let's Move, Reach Higher, Joining Forces, and Let Girls Learn.
People I know who spent time with Michelle say that she was incredibly passionate, even in her private life, about these issues. She would meet a teacher at an event where there were no cameras and no reporters and spend time really engaging them to talk about how we can do better for kids' education, or how we can do more to get kids moving and healthier. Her drive to help fight childhood obesity was unprecedented. It was something that is obviously a very serious issue worldwide, and particularly in the US, and Michelle's Let's Move campaign was something that tackled it head on.
Let's Move promoted healthy living to children. The goal was to end childhood obesity within a generation by encouraging a more proactive lifestyle and healthy eating.
She was very famously photographed at on many occasions, jump roping, skip roping, dancing, all kinds of things to help children be encouraged to get away from their tablets and screens and get out there and get moving. She also very famously planted a vegetable garden at the White House. In the past, you know, they had so many beautiful flowers and landscape gardeners, but going back to Eleanor Roosevelt, this was the first time they'd had a First Lady plant vegetables. And she was very much behind this campaign to encourage healthy eating, to encourage eating locally sourced produce, organic when possible. And so she made kind of a big deal about that and actually insisted that they plant a vegetable garden that they could actually eat from on the White House property.
Many underprivileged areas in the United States didn't have access to the same resources as other major cities or affluent areas. Michelle's goal was to teach the necessary skills to help young people and communities farm healthier foods in small gardens, schools, community centers, or people's homes.
And just imagine how many of our kids we could help. Imagine how many lives we would transform. And like anything, this is not going to be easy, and it will not happen overnight. This is going to be an ongoing process, one that will unfold over generations. And that is why the Partnership for a Healthier America is so critical. It has just been at the core of everything we do. You see, I'm not going to be here forever, and neither are any of you. And I want to make sure that the work that we've begun and the progress we've made will continue, not just for the length of this administration, but until the problem is solved.
Reach Higher began as an initiative to inspire students to remain committed to their education, enroll in college, and pursue academics.
Well, Michelle Obama always emphasized education. She was a really ambitious person. You know, she had a law degree from Harvard. She always pushed her daughters to, achieve the most that they could. And she championed women going to school and, focusing on their careers. But she was able to do this in a way that didn't offend other women that may have made, a career being a homemaker. Her own mom was a homemaker.
If I had worried about who liked me and who thought I was cute when I was your age, I wouldn't be married to the President of the United States either. So, change doesn't happen from the top down. It happens from the bottom up.
There are around 61 million girls not in school who could be. And the impact of that doesn't just matter for them, which is the fact that they don't get a chance to reach their potential. It matters much more broadly for their local communities and for their countries.
Let Girls Learn was launched in March 2015 as part of a global effort to provide access to education for 62 million girls in developing countries without such opportunities, and drive home to all young women the importance of a good education.
When girls get educated, when they learn to read and write and think, that gives them the tools to speak up and to talk about injustice and to demand equal treatment. It helps them participate in the political life of their country and hold their leaders accountable.
As an advocate for education, Michelle spoke to and helped several young girls with their education and future careers. She proved that women and girls could be high achievers regardless of their background, race, or religion.
I absolutely believe that education is the key, not just for young women, but for people in general. A lot of the problems that we have in the world come from a lack of knowledge. People who are just underexposed to all the different ways there are to be human.
As an advocate for education, Michelle spoke to and helped several young girls with their education and future careers. She proved that women and girls could be high achievers regardless of their background, race, or religion.
Michelle? LaVaughn Robinson, girl of the Southside. For the past 25 years, you have not only been my wife and mother of my children, you have been my best friend. You took on a role you didn't ask for, and you made it your own, with grace and with grit and with style and with humor. You made the White House a place that belongs to everybody. And the new generation sets its sights higher because it has you as a role model. You have made me proud, and you have made the country proud.
I knew he was a special person. And it had nothing to do with his education. It had nothing to do with his potential. And I say this to young women, don't check off. There are a lot of women who have the boxes. Did he go to the right school? What is his income? You know, it was none of that. It was how he felt about his mother. The love that he felt for his mother, his relationship to women, his work ethic. We worked together in a firm. He did his work. And he was good, and he was smart, and I like that. And he was low-key, and he wasn't impressed with himself. And he was funny, and we joked a lot. And he loved his little sister. I really respected that. Here we are in a big law firm, right? And everybody was pushing to make money. He was one of the smartest students at Harvard Law School, one of the smartest associates in our firm. He had the chance to clerk for the Supreme Court. And I thought, well, you're definitely going to do that, right? Only a few people even have the chance to do that. And he was like, not really. But I had no idea he would be president. I didn't think he was going to be president until the night we were standing on the stage, and he actually won. And I was like, God, look, you won.
She's a sensation. It wasn't always that way. When she was originally campaigning with Barack in 2008, what's impossible to think of now is that she was thought of as a liability because of several things that she had said. She was being interviewed by reporters in early 2008, and she had mentioned, this is the first time in my adult life that I am proud to be an American. And this really didn't play well. People didn't like the fact that she was emphasizing race too much. Then her dissertation was published when she was a student, which emphasized how difficult it would be to be an African American in a white university. That also didn't play over very well. And there were caricatures of her as this angry black woman who was militant and was overly focusing on race. And they decided that they were going to basically give her a complete makeover, a complete image makeover, because they felt that she was coming across as too forceful.
Michelle is very honest in her book Becoming about her and Barack's marital difficulties. She doesn't paint a perfect picture of their marriage. In fact, she actually said in an interview with Oprah Winfrey for Harper's Bazaar that, yes, I know people see us as #relationship goals, but it's not as picture perfect as it may seem. I think for Michelle, it was important to paint a more accurate, realistic picture of the fact that you have two very intelligent, very driven, very ambitious people who are trying to find a way to have a successful partnership and marriage. One of the things Michelle talks about is how her way of loving and her feeling of security was different than Barack's. You know, Barack didn't grow up near his mother. He was raised by his grandparents, and yet he knew his mother loved him very much. For Michelle, she wanted him present. She wanted her husband around her. That's how she felt loved and secure. But for Barack, it didn't need to be that way. So I think Michelle's very honest and open about the fact that she and Barack had to find a way to love each other and also be true to themselves. And she openly talks about the fact that the pair underwent couples counseling shortly after the birth of their daughters.
The challenges the Obamas faced in the White House weren't faced alone. The White House staff were very supportive, and the occupying presidential family reciprocated it and treated them like family. Marion Shields Robinson, Michelle's mother, lived in the White House with the Obamas. She was the glue that kept the family structure stable and intact. The grandmother of two made sure that she was there for her grandchildren. When Michelle and Barack were abroad or away from the White House, Marion would stay behind to look after the children. She treated staff like family, and the Obamas always had time for a family dinner. She made life in the White House feel normal, something not many first families experienced during their time in the White House.
And it got exhausting having someone constantly watching her every movement. Just going to the store was just a huge production.
But most of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. You know, kids, you guys, young people, you guys have my heart. And I said this in Belfast earlier. It's so true. Look, my girls know I can embarrass them and love them to death, but young people, you guys move me in ways that you don't even imagine. So it was so important for us that while we were here, we got to do something with the young people here in Dublin. So thank you for such a warm welcome. You have made my family feel right at home here in Ireland, and you guys are pretty awesome. Now, as Mrs. Kinney mentioned, I first experienced that warm feeling about 2 years ago when my husband, you know the guy, President Obama, and I visited the city as well as the lovely village of Moneygall, where my husband's ancestors come from. And again, yay to our students who are here. I got to see them backstage, but everywhere we went, we were welcomed with huge smiles and open arms and lots of rain, which we handled. And when we left, we knew that our girls had to experience all of the warmth and beauty of this place for themselves. And that's why, one of the reasons why we're here today. Earlier today, as you heard, Malia and Sasha and I visited the Long Room at Trinity College. As you know, I don't know if many of you have been there, it's like Hogwarts. As Sasha pointed out, it's a huge room with shelf after shelf full of books. Beautiful place, and I hope that all of you aspire to go there, if not study there, but just to go and experience what it's like to be surrounded by so much history and so much power. And the girls had the chance to explore those shelves and trace their Irish and lineage, which was a very powerful thing to find out that these girls that were born on the Southside of Chicago can trace their roots back here to Ireland, way back to the 1600s. That was very powerful for me as their mother, and hopefully it will be something that they cherish for the rest of their lives.
One of the biggest revelations in Michelle's book, Becoming, is her own painful struggle to have children. We find out that Michelle had a very painful miscarriage prior to having her daughters, and then was forced to rely on IVF for the successful conception of her two girls, Malia and Sasha. This was something she writes about in really breathtaking detail. She talks about the loneliness of, injecting herself at 9 o'clock at night somewhere with the hormone she needed, how the fact that Barack was often gone or traveling was difficult as she was contemplating the IVF and doing the IVF.
I mean, I think For Barack and Michelle's children, Sasha and Malia, growing up in the White House probably wasn't easy. They had some advice from the previous first children, the Bush twins, Jenna and Barbara Bush. They actually took them under their wing and gave them a lot of helpful advice. But one of the things that made it easier for them was that they had such a strong family. They had their grandmother living with them. They had their mother ensuring that, you know, they're able to live as normally as possible. And something that is notable about those 8 years for them was that there was never anything negatively reported on them, ever. And it could be, you know, the media was, you know, exercising some caution there. But even since they have now, you know, become younger adults and are no longer living in the White House, they have earned a reputation for just being really solid, well-behaved girls that have been really raised well. And a lot of this has been attributed to the work that, you know, Michelle had done in the White House, but also Michelle and Barack as a family, just ensuring that they had some level of stability and normalcy, you know, in spite of the fact that they were living in very abnormal conditions.
After 8 years in the White House, the Obamas have made a positive change in the United States of America: equality, acceptance, and awareness. An unusual role she never thought she would see herself in, but a role she made her own.
I want to close today by simply saying thank you. Thank you for everything you do for our kids and for our country. Being your First Lady has been the greatest honor of my life, and I hope I've made you proud.
Michelle's incredible ability to embody something aspirational but also relatable reminds me of Oprah Winfrey, actually, where you have someone you see as a role model but also is able to make you feel that they're unpretentious and not intimidating in any way. It's a great skill, and it's something that Michelle has used to great effect throughout her career.
During a visit to England in 2009, Michelle Obama exchanged a hug with the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II.
I love that the Queen put her arm around Michelle. And I believe that she said, you know, I never thought I would see this.
Traditionally, the Queen doesn't exchange physical contact with those around her, nor does she travel with those outside of her family and immediate staff. Still, she famously made exceptions for Michelle and took a liking to her. Queen Elizabeth has met several First Ladies from the United States, and it was apparent that Michelle was unlike any other. The political landscape of the United States has shifted dramatically since the days of the Obama administration. Nevertheless, the impact of the work achieved by First Lady Michelle Obama has remained alive in the many hearts and minds she worked so hard to inspire. Despite leaving the White House, Michelle has continued to maintain a strong presence on the global stage and work towards building a better, more inclusive world that she always strived for.
Now, Michelle Obama's 5'11". She's extremely tall, and she wore heels all the time. She was someone who is proud of her stature and in no way a shrinking violet by any circumstance. People who have met her have said that she's incredibly impressive for her strength and her height and her persona and her presence. But she also liked to sneak out of the White House, and she would do it frequently in disguise. Despite her height and her elegance in stature, she was very often able, in fact, to do just that. Fans of Michelle Obama, people who've met her at events, always say the same thing. She is, on the one hand, their ideal and someone they want to emulate, and on the other hand, she feels just like them. Michelle's incredible ability to embody something aspirational but also relatable reminds me of Oprah Winfrey, actually, where you have someone you see as a role model but also is able to make you feel that they're unpretentious and not intimidating in any way. It's a great skill, and it's something that Michelle has used to great effect throughout her career.
First Lady was never a role she expected, but no one can say it wasn't a role she made wholly her own. Her continued popularity is evidenced by the international success of her autobiography, Becoming Michelle Obama. She has since campaigned and advocated for the election of Hillary Clinton as she continues to fight for what she believes is right. She is a testament to her ethos of self-love, hard work, and family, that an African-American girl from a working-class background on the South Side of Chicago can become one of the most important and magnetic voices of the 21st century.
I know how hard we'll fight for our families, how deeply we care about our communities, how much of a difference we can make for those around us. And I've seen it again and again and again, that what our parents told us really is true, that if we get our education, we can do anything.